All right, in a year like the one we've had, Merriam-Webster Dictionary's word of the year is no surprise, at least not to me. It's gaslighting. And it seems to be far too common these days, so this Wellness Wednesday, we're discussing what it is and what you can do if it happens to you. So Mary Jo Horton with Memorial Health is here to walk us through it. So Mary Jo, you know, I think it should be the word of at least the last 5 years, maybe
absolutely.
decade.
Yes.
Do you think that people understand what gaslighting is and that it is psychological?
No, I think that we are taught to minimize our problems,
Yeah.
minimize things that bother us, to sweep things under the table. I think oftentimes we convince ourselves and each other that life is not really that bad and that we don't have a reason to be upset.
All right, so let's talk about gaslighting because we hear it a lot. Let's define what it is, and you sent over some points for us to show people as we talk through this. What is gaslighting?
So it's a psychological attempt to convince somebody that their experience is not real or valid, to simply deny what you're experiencing to be true, to tell somebody that their emotions are not real, are not valid, and that they're essentially making up how they feel in their perspective on things.
All right, it calls into question your sanity, really. I saw that in the definition of it. Yeah.
So think about it. You're upset about something, or you have very strong emotions about an experience you've had, and someone's trying to tell you that that experience didn't exist.
Yeah.
So you almost start to feel like, well, if I can't trust my emotions and my thoughts, maybe I can't even trust my perception of reality.
Like, I know the person said what they said.
Right.
Yeah. So this last point here creates a power dynamic which can lead to abusive situations.
Absolutely.
That's important.
So
yeah.
if one person gets to control what is happening and what is not, that leaves the other person subjected to the whim and the narrative that the other person has constructed for them.
So we see this happen in all sorts of places in our lives, right?
Yes.
Work, politics,
Yes.
family interactions, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, anytime that there is a discussion and almost like a committee-based decision on what reality is, rather than I get to determine my experience, then we're going to have situations in which people are trying to convince us that we're not accurate.
I was going to ask you why it's so common these days, but is it more common, or is this just what we've been dealing with the whole time?
So I do think that social media plays a large role, right? Because in social media, our lives are constructed, they're portrayed, there are images out there.
Yes.
And I think it makes it harder for us to have genuine, authentic experiences.
Okay, all right, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about how we deal with it. If you are confronted, you're in a situation, yes, about, you know, where someone is trying to distort what you know to be true.
Right.
How do you handle that?
So we really want to lean back on our values. We want to lean back on our emotional resiliency. We want to make sure that we're doing things in which we feel that we have internal strength.
Yeah.
So that we know what is true for us. We know our truth, and we are not as vulnerable to the effects of somebody else's external validation of us.
And part of that is the relationships that you have, right?
Yes.
That you allow into your life.
So I always like to think about relationships like this. After you've had an experience in that relationship, do you feel drained, judged, and criticized?
Yeah.
Or do you feel nourished, uplifted, and replenished?
Okay, all right, use boundaries. Those are
Yes.
key as well, right?
It's our job to enforce our boundaries. If we are finding ourselves in any sort of situation, work, family events, or otherwise, in which it is not healthy for us,
Yeah.
we should empower ourselves to say, I'm not participating in things that are ultimately draining.
And a good way to escape being manipulated, you say, is to strengthen your emotional resiliency. We've talked about this. Yeah.
So I always think, let's think about our our physical immune system. We do things to boost that so we're not susceptible to cold and flu.
Yeah.
We want to deal with our emotions. We want to rest. We want to have a sense of purpose. We want to feel an internal wellness so that when all these other things are happening external, we're not as vulnerable to getting sucked into it.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Mary Jo, for walking us through what gaslighting is, because we all experience it in our lives. We do.
Absolutely.
All right, so if you want to look at this again, and I recommend it, it'll be on our website, along with all of our Wellness Wednesday segments. It's at wsav.com/Wellness Wednesday.